Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz. That's right, it's evening tea. I do these once in a while too. And today in the studio, I have Kenyona Parlor in the studio. So I'm going to read a little bit on her bio, and then we're going to sit back, enjoy, have a good, friendly conversation, and get real. So, Kenyona, am I saying it right? Kenyona?
No, close. Kenyana.
Kenyana. Oh, I
Yes.
really love. Oh, my
Thank you.
granddaughter. Oh, that'd be a beautiful name for my granddaughter. I'm
I
having
hear
a
you.
granddaughter on March 23rd, 2021. So
Oh,
we're looking for names.
congratulations.
I like that now. So Kenyana is a certified life coach and writer. She helps individuals with personal development. She is the host and owner of Faith, Life, Love podcast, a show that embodies the element of life lessons, relationships, and God's promise to us. When
Kenyana.
Kenyana Kenyana, I'm going to say that all night now. Kenyana isn't working. You can be sure she is bonding with her daughter over laughter and movies. So, Kenyana, welcome
Yes.
to Tea Time with Miss Liz.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, I'd like to know a little bit more on who is Kenyana.
Okay, well, my name is Kenyana. I'm originally from New York. I've seen and done everything literally here, but I honestly feel like, I have my heart is more so with Florida. Um, I went to college for creative writing. I graduated with a bachelor's degree, and currently, right now, I am studying psychology, mental health, a master's, so that I can, soon open my own practice. So, um, besides that, I own the podcast Faith, Life, Love, where we just talk about things that are realistic that the church kind of sometimes won't talk about, because it might be a sensitive topic or a touchy, topic. But, I have guests from the community where we can all talk about our experiences and then kind of wrap it right back around to the fact like, hey, we all have experiences. We've gone through something. We might have messed up, but hey, there was God there to literally show his mercy and his grace and say, you know what, it's okay, you live and you learn. So, yes.
So, what is the biggest thing you've learned about the podcast and about yourself with the whole process?
Okay, so I think let's start first with how it came about. And I think it's so crazy, but it's like a good kind of crazy because I found myself in a very toxic relationship that I was coming out of. And I had this friend who was, steady helping me with getting things back on track. And so my friend ended up saying to me, when you talk, you have that, minister voice to you or that pastor voice to you. And I'm like, I've heard that before. And I'm like, don't go there. He's, we were just kind of cracking jokes here and there. And he's just like, what about your purpose? And I'm like, it's funny. I've always wanted to be a pastor. Okay. But I never felt like I could be that because I felt like, gosh, I'm so imperfect. I've done things that people might look at as crazy, that might be a little bit unforgiving. So I'm like, I can't really, no, I don't think I could do that. So he said, no, you can, God uses imperfect people, literally. And so he's just like, you can still do what you love and understand or define like what your purpose is in life, which I love talking about God, but also I love talking about like the realistic events and situations that we go through. So I was like, you know what? You gave me the idea. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start this podcast. So I had like all these names in my little notepad on my MacBook. And I'm like, I don't know which name to, go with. Cause I'm like certain, when you see different podcast names, it seems like very specific, like you have to deal with one topic. And I'm like, knowing me, I talk about everything. So I can't just, pick something just that's focused on one topic. So I thought, and I'm like, faith, life, love, which all deals with the aspect of relationships, sounds like something that I could talk about, which deals with God, but also things that people deal with as well. So whether that's marriage, divorce, career, spirituality, friendships, all of that, it deals with relationships. You have to build relationships with people. And most oftentimes we fall out of certain, relationships and things. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And I'll end up inviting or having guests on who are from within the community, because those, like you said, those are who, the real people are. Their stories matter. And I feel like oftentimes in our community, they are often overlooked, or they're not looked at all. And they are the people who relate the most to the things that we go through. So that's where that came from. And that's how I started that. And I've been loving it. And, looking at different little ideas and things like that to kind of keep upgrading and making it fun.
So where did you get the title, The Faith, Love, and Life?
I had gotten that from Faith first, because I love God and I'm like always doing Bible study, always reading. So I'm like, faith regardless, and whatever I do, it has to be in everything, Life, just for the simple fact that it's life, you go through everything. It's kind of like, baseball, you get thrown balls and you got to figure out what you're going to do. Am I going to like make it to like home base? Do I like, you're dodging balls and things like that. And you have opponents and people who might try to, get you off base, but still you're trying to get to wherever it is that your destination is. And love, just love. Everybody needs love. Everybody deserves love. Okay, that's number one. Doesn't matter if they're crazy, they deserve it.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I like that you say everyone, because it is right and it is true. Everyone deserves love,
Yeah.
And everyone deserves life.
Yeah.
And faith. Everyone has a different belief in faith.
Yeah.
But we all get through life with faith.
Yes, exactly. And that makes a lot of sense,
It does.
Yes.
So if you had a way of sharing your journey in life, how could you describe it to the viewers out there?
My journey, I would say honestly, is probably one of them action movies that you see, to be honest. And you're like, if I tell you about it, you're like, whoa, that sounds like an action movie, just cars flipping everywhere. And but it's a little bit of everything. I think from childhood, starting off with, both parents in the household, to literally going through different phases growing up to where, you start to see changes. Those parents are no longer together, they're divorced. And you just start to, learn stuff and go through stuff. So my journey in life has definitely been all over the place. It has not been easy, but it's definitely been a learning journey. It's been something that has molded me into the person that I am today, to never give up on myself or anybody for that matter. So
before the show, we were talking a little bit about authentic people, right? And authentic stories. And why is it so important for people to be truly themselves? Like, what message are we actually giving to people by saying be authentic?
Well, first of all, when you think about authentic, you want to think about being original, being yourself. And this is something that most oftentimes I do tell a lot of people, even friends. There's only one you don't see two Kenyonas walking around this earth. You don't see it. There's only one. So it should be okay, right off from the beginning, to be yourself. When you be authentic, you allow others to grow with you, to understand you, to want to support you. If you can't be authentic or you can't be yourself, you kind of create barriers, social barriers at that. So you have to understand the importance of being authentic and understanding it is okay to be perfectly peculiar or weird. It's okay.
It's okay to be different.
Yes.
Now, because we're on tea time, and I do this with all of my guests, if I give you the letter TEA, what words come to mind for each letter?
Okay. Tenacity, T. E, eternity. And A, I would say I don't want to say all-knowing, because I don't know everything. But I think that A is definitely a good one. Appreciative. That's what I'll say.
I like that. And I like the word tenacity, because I never knew what that word meant. And a lot of people were telling me this word, this is who you are, Liz. And I'm like, but what does that word mean? A lot of times people will throw these words at me, because I'm a woman who doesn't even have her grade 12. And when I hear these words come at me, I'm like, okay, are you trying to tell me that I'm smart, that I need to work harder?
Yeah.
So good old Google saves the day. And I Google and I'm like, oh, okay, I get that. I understand that now and why they say those words to me and why they label me with these words. And for me, when I get a title or a label given to me, I look at it as a different jar of jam.
Mm-hmm.
Because each jar of jam has a different ingredient,
Yes.
has a different flavor, right? So when you give me that label, I really enjoy that label because I like to flavor it. I like to enjoy it. I like to see how it's processed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a cup of tea, like we said before the show.
Yeah.
Each cup is different. So how do we make our cups completely different from everyone else? If we're following everyone, if we're always following, if we're never stepping up and being leaders, how are we actually showing what our true cups can do?
I think that right there is a good question, but I do have an answer for that. In order to understand how you can make your cup of tea different, or to understand how to stand out from everyone else, I would honestly say that starts with self-awareness, self-love, and self-worth. If you understand who you are, what you're worth, it should not matter, or you should not have to feel as though you have to go and compare yourself to someone else. It's okay with having 10 million different flavors of tea. It's okay to be able to do 25 different things. Maybe those are just your God-given gifts. I may meet someone who very good at putting together a really complicated word problem and solving it. I'm going to tell you right now, I can't do that. I used to hate math coming up, and I always just asked my math teacher, why do they teach us, the a squared plus the b squared plus c squared? Because I'm not going to go up to a gas pump and put that in just to put gas, in the car. I didn't like it. I disliked it.
Yeah.
And I ended up flunking the class and then, retaking it and passing it. But to truly understand what you're good at, and to embrace that's perfectly fine. That's what makes you different. For me, my specialties of understanding what makes me stand out is literally understanding my worth. I don't have to be the prettiest girl, on earth. I don't have to be this or that, but I'm simply just me. And if I'm okay with being me, everyone else will love me for being myself.
Exactly. And that's how we empower other people, other ladies, because we show that we're ourselves, our true selves, we're authentic, and we show you that life is hard, but we get through it and we move over it. And it's like before the show started, we talked about how we all know we have all been scorned. We all have gone through challenges in life. But if we keep just living in all of that abuse and all that negative and everything, we just say, poor me, poor me, poor me. How do we actually move forward, right?
Yeah.
So like we both have had our own stories and our own journeys. It's you like you said, yours was like an action movie, right?
Yeah.
Mine is like a make-believe movie. Everybody's like, I can't believe you went through all this and still doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So how do we get other women, especially women, to understand that it's possible and you can live your dreams and your goals? So as podcast ladies, how do we get that message out there to them?
First, start off with an idea, okay? But don't sit on that idea too long. I tell many people that, because you don't want an idea just to stay in your idea, and then later on it floats off in your head and you're like, oh, I forgot what it was I wanted to do. And whatever idea you have, write it down and make it a goal. Even if it's something complicated, break that complicated idea down into many different steps or many different goals, and then execute it. Actually have a plan and execute it. Do it. Don't just write it down and say, oh, this is what I want to do. You're just talking about it. You have to actually do it. And it does not matter if it takes years, if it takes months. You have to understand that with a process, or the word process means that it's going to take time. Yep. It's not going to be like a microwave where I can just pop in, a hot pocket, and then in 3 minutes, I have that little cheesy pizza thing going on. It's a process. And so we have to be patient with ourselves. We have to understand, like, hey, listen, It might not happen next year or the year after, but maybe the year after that, literally, it might be the life-changing moment. Do what it is that you want to do. Who's to say that maybe tomorrow wouldn't be that life-changing moment? You're building positive habits so that one day, everything that you're working towards becomes so much more bigger, you know? And it's not just about yourself. You have to also think about other people. Who am I doing this for? Why am I doing it? How can they benefit from it? You know, it's about being selfless.
And we have Frankie Norbert in the house, and she will be with us on Monday for her tea time. And she says it may take a lifetime. And that is true. It is not something that happens overnight,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it's like you said, Kenyona.
Or you can call me Kay, whatever you want.
Kay. But I really want to know your name, like, because I want my granddaughter. That is such a beautiful name.
Thank you.
But I really want people to understand that what we do as ladies, it's not overnight. It takes time. It takes frustration. It takes rejection. It takes hard work.
Exactly. And I agree with that. And also something that I'm very big on, you know, I mean, I grew up, I have 9 siblings. It's 9 of us. We're all grown. And we all get along very well. But one thing that I've learned, especially with the sisterhood that I have, you know, because it's not perfect, you know, so when we have our falling outs and things like that, we still come back together. So I think as women, what we have to understand is that I'm not your competition. You're not my competition. We can work together and we can make it happen. Even if I come to you with 5 little lip glosses that I want to sell and you're established, work with me. I'll work with you. Whatever you need, you do it for me, I do it for you. We are not each other's competition. And I feel like in society, because they've created this thing where it's like everything that you do or that I do has to be some type of competition. And you know, it doesn't, whether it's loving somebody or whatever the case may be, or how somebody raises their kids. It doesn't have to be a competition. Sometimes maybe something that you do, you know, might help me with disciplining my child, you know? So, and maybe something that I do, you know, I could share with you that might help you. So we don't have to be each other's competition or look down at each other. Why not embrace each other?
Exactly. Embrace one another and help each other grow, because it actually does take a community to build a village, you know, and to build a child. And I tell this to my kids all the time. It takes everyone around to help raise you. I did not do this on my own. I had help.
Yeah.
And when I didn't have the help, I asked for help.
Exactly.
You know? So it's okay to ask for help. And you're right. Society has made us where if you don't compete with the other lady, you're not a lady. Well, that's wrong.
It's very wrong.
Let's embrace each other as sisters, you know, of all nations, all worlds, and work together and build the strength.
Exactly. You know? That's how it should be. It's supposed to be that way. But hey, you know, this world we live in, I don't know what they're doing, but they, you know, it's like they have us like, ugh, you know, like, do I really want to work with her? I mean, you know, and it shouldn't be that. There should never be a second guess or a thought in the back of my mind saying, do I really want to work with her? You know, it should just be, come on, let's figure out what we can do.
I might have something that helps you to grow, and you might have something to teach me, you know, and that's what I say about all my guests. My guests teach me all the time something new. So Frankie's leaving a few comments, so I'm just going to pull them up on the screen and read them out. So she says it takes our own growth and healing.
It does. I agree with Frankie.
And yes, support and lift each other. And we all will fly further together. I believe that as well. I believe that we need to start working with women together, not against each other, not competition. You know, there's so many women's groups out there that say, well, mine's better than yours. You know, you don't do this in your group, and maybe we don't do it, but teach us how to do it. Or support us and say, okay, your group doesn't do that, but that's okay. Ours does. And we can send our friends over to you for that, and you send your friends over to us for this. Like,
exactly. I think, and it's all in, you know, a mindset as well. Like, we have to get in the mindset that we don't have to feel like one does it better than the other. Of course, we all know that. That's obvious, you know, especially if it's a God-given gift. You may do something better than me. I may be able to do something better than you. But what about if we put it together? We can really be unstoppable, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really all about empowerment, you know, and upliftment. You know, I hear when I think about James Brown's song, This Is a Man's World, I'm like, James, you're so wrong, you know? You're wrong,
But we
James,
can
you know?
change that. We can
change
take
that.
that out and we can put woman's world. You know, there's always room for growth. There's always room for change.
Yes.
And just because one person says, no, you can't do it, prove them wrong. Step up and say, you know what? Let me try.
Exactly.
And if you don't try, you don't know. And I really want this to get out there, what tea time is really about. Because a lot of people will ask me, what is tea time? Tea time is just a friendly conversation with people around the world who are incredible, who don't get seen or get appreciated because we're the small underdogs that people will say, you know, they did one thing, oh wow, good deal. Give them this little reward and then move along. But you know what? That person might have made a difference in one person's life, and then the next person's life, and the next person's life, and that's how the ripple effect starts.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. Yep, I agree with you on that. Like we had talked about too before the show, paying it forward.
Yeah.
You know, and I spoke on the podcast, and if we can just literally all uplift each other, it doesn't matter who's doing numbers or pulling numbers or whatever the case may be. Grab a person by the hand and tell that person, grab that person's hand and come on and let's pay it forward. That's what it's about, you know. I think we've all been doing the same thing for centuries, where, you know, you keep doing the same thing and then it doesn't work. So it's like, why keep doing that? Why not try something different? So if you know, you're going to be full of drama or whatever the case, especially if you go into a dinner or something like that, you know, try the approach very differently, you know. So you don't have to put on a facade, as we were talking about too, you know, where yourself, be yourself. Don't have on those performance clothes. As I said, you know, you have it in relationships, you have it in careers, you know, where you want to be on your best behavior, you want to sit with your back up. But as you know, as I shared with me, I just give it to you, you know, as you come. You want to be a friend, and you know, you decide if I'm crazy or not. And if you want to stay, it's up to you. And, you know, if you want to stay, kudos to you. I love you. I appreciate you. And if you don't, I still love you and I appreciate you. And, you know, best of luck on your endeavors, you know, so.
Well, it's true, right? When you're yourself, your true self all the time, not just when the camera goes on or when the lights go on or when somebody says action.
Yeah.
People will listen more. People will be drawn into you more because you are giving them your 100% authentic self. You are not pretending because you have a title or you have a show or, you know, it's not like, and that's why I always ask my guests to come in a little early because I like to break the ice. I like to know my guests. I don't like to just have you come in and, okay, showtime, action. You know?
I understand. Yeah, that's how I am with my podcast. You know, I tell all my guests, hey, please feel free to do what you want to do, say what you want to say. Let me know, you know, before we start recording what you want me to address you as or what nickname you want me to, you know, call you. But just feel free to be yourself, because people love when you can just be yourself, you know. They embrace that. They gravitate towards that. So, you know, you want to be as real as possible.
So now we're going to get back into you. Okay. So a little bit more on you. You have a daughter.
Yes.
So what message do you give to your daughter about other little girls?
Well, first and foremost, I always teach my daughter to be loving, very kind. And I think she takes after me just for the fact, like her humor. Like, you know, when your mom told you, you know, when you have kids, you'll see it. And you're like, nah, I can see it. And then when you look at it, you're like, oh my God, you know, like I see it.
Was I really that bad?
Yeah, kind of sort of like that. Like, was I did all that. I was, you know. Yeah. So she's very loving. She's very kind. But I always teach her to treat people the way that you want to be treated. You know, and if someone does mistreat you, you need to come tell me and talk to me so that we can go, you know, maybe find that other person's parent and hash that out and figure out, you know, what's wrong. But ever rarely is she, you know, ever in some type of confrontation or anything with anyone. She's very loving and accepting and very list. Like, she's just about others. So if we're in the store, hey mom, are we gonna get this for, like, Auntie Nasha? I'm kind of me again, that circles back to realness. Is Auntie Nasha gonna get that for me? So but she's very selfless. She's all about people, and when she meets people, she doesn't forget them. I can tell you that much. She does not.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And we have to be role models and set an example for the little ones, right? Because they're our next generation, and they're the next change makers as well. Mm-hmm. So I just noticed that I forgot your end, so I went in and I fixed it.
Oh. So well, thank you. Thank you.
So I was like, no, I'm missing something. So I had to go in and quickly put it in. So
I didn't even notice.
And a lot of people don't understand when we do these podcasts, there's a lot of work behind it, the scenes behind it, right?
Yes.
Getting the guests, preparing the guests, setting it all. So what is your biggest challenge as a podcast?
My biggest challenge is finding or having guests where we can talk about topics that we're not repeating. Like, but you can always share something or anything. It doesn't matter. But so let's say if last week I shared an episode or I talked about soul ties, right? So if I have a guest on for the next episode, if they want to talk about soul ties, they can. But, let's see how we can change it up to make it a bit more fun. What's even more challenging is, I think, just mostly putting in the time or the effort, because I feel like, when you have guests on, unless you podcast, you might not really understand the true work that goes behind it. Like, it's time consuming, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. You're putting everything of you into it because you take care of it. Like, this is my baby. I want to grow it. I want to make sure, that it's getting the attention that it needs. Preparing for me, depending on what topics are being talked about. So if, a guest says, hey, I want to talk about this specific topic, and it's one that is very, very sensitive. For example, let's just use racism. That's something that I would have to script, because I want to be mindful and considerate, of other people. So, I might just have them talk about maybe their own personal, experiences where they've experienced that, themselves, and what did they learn, and how are they able to, like, resolve the issue, things like that. So it's just, being able to cater to everyone without stepping on anyone's toes, because you do want to welcome people. We all relate to each other, whether we like it in one way or another. So definitely the work, even the lighting, if the camera stops,
which I have a problem with all the time. My lights, I don't know, I'm either shining bright like a little star, or I'm dark shadows here. So
and I go with that too. Even with doing like mics, I've been trying to upgrading as well. Like, because with me, if I'm doing like an episode by myself, I can just like throw on the headphones and have the mic and just go in, on the episode. But when it's a guest, because I had recently upgraded to the actual studio, like the mics, the headphones, the arm where you can adjust the mic and stuff. And literally like calling over friends to be like, hey, listen, can you come help me, figure this out? And, can you hear me? Like, no, I can't hear you. I can hear in this one, but I can't hear in that one, It can be frustrating, so it takes time, it takes patience and effort, it's a learning process every single day.
So what was the reason for starting a podcast?
I was going through my own mess, believe it or not. I'm currently waiting for the judge to sign off on my divorce. So it's in the status of review. That's literally the stage before I'm like, go ahead, judge. Like, you don't even gotta look at it. Just
hurry up, get it done.
Come on, just sign it. I don't want nothing. Just sign it and let's go, And I was going through a lot, in that marriage. I married very young. I married at the age of 20, and I was married for 7 years. And I think I started to learn things, how, yeah, someone can propose, because that's every girl's, or not every girl's, but most girls' dreams. If
Yeah.
someone proposed to me, I'm definitely going to say yes. I'm going to accept it. I'm not going to think, you
I want to
know.
be that girl that says no.
I should have said no. Forgive me, I should have said no. But you know what? It was, it was beautiful, the proposal, everything. The way it came out, it was at a Japanese steakhouse, and it was, everybody was there. Everyone was like, very loving and accepting and things like that, and taking pictures. I kind of almost felt like a celebrity, because I'm like, who are these people taking pictures, and we ain't even hired nobody, and there's like flashes all over the restaurant. I'm like, oh my gosh. But what I ended up learning later was the person that I loved couldn't love me properly, and that is not that person's fault, and I don't like to play the blame game, because I feel like on both sides, we both could have learned, or we did learn lessons. I know I did. And so it starts with understanding, how was that person raised? Did you have both parents in the household? Because it surely makes a difference if just a single mother is raising a son. And stuff is just very different, as opposed to having a father in the household. And this way he's more disciplined. He's more mature with things and know how to communicate. But I was going through a lot of domestic violence, to be honest. My daughter was seeing a lot of stuff that I don't think, she should have seen, or she didn't deserve to see, but she saw it. And when it got to the point of her, standing up for me here and there, at certain moments, for me, that became the wake up sign of, this is not it. This is not it. Like, I have to get out of this. I have to do better. And that's when, I prayed. I literally prayed to God, like, can you send help? I'm not looking for a partner. I'm not looking to date anybody. I'm looking for help to get out, because I'm a very cool, laid back person, but I feel when I deal with certain situations, I need a militant figure. That's how, I was raised, as far as like, my father and my uncles. It was always a militant, in order for me to move on something and move quick, it had to be on a militant type of thing. This is not funny. This is not a game. Like, you got to put the cards on the table and call a thing what it is, and there were definitely moments where I was in denial, sharing with this friend, like, it's not, I don't look at it as, domestic violence, although I have gone through physical, emotional, spiritual altercations with this person. And it's okay to call a thing, and to accept it and understand this is what it was. It wasn't the healthiest, choice that I made, but I learned a lot throughout that. And I began to see like a lot of repetitive habits that I didn't see, in my parents' marriage, like abandonment and things like that, where you just come and go. And it's like, a lot of like infidelity and a lot of things. And right now I actually am working on the book for it, and I've been writing it for a couple of years now. And so I get that constant encouragement from my friends, where it's like, better to write it and get it out and help someone else than to keep it to yourself and heal and not help anyone at all, And so I think I'm just at that point in life where, because I tell them, I'm like, I'm just so tired of writing it. I'm so tired of reliving it. I'm over this. I'm ready to just move forward and be happy. But what I had to understand was that my peace was more important than staying. And I chose my peace over that marriage.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that. We don't just try to get out of a marriage, There's reasons why we eventually get to the point where it's enough. Our self-care comes before the person we love. It doesn't mean that we don't love this person anymore.
Yeah.
It just means that this person is no longer good for us or healthy for us, and it's time to move on.
Exactly.
And it's time to start a new chapter. So we have a few more comments from Frankie, and we have some highs in the watch party going on. So we have one from Shadow God. He's like, hey guys. We have a lady from the Philippines who says, good day, Lady Elizabeth Gagno, watching here from the Philippines. and a couple other highs here and there from a bunch of
Okay.
other people. So people are actually tuning in, and which is good because, and I think
Yeah.
which is important because we need to hear the raw stories. We need to hear the truth. We need to be
Mm-hmm.
raw and that.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna pull up a couple more comments that Frankie has put into the
Okay.
studio.
Sure.
Uh, so she says, "Those like yourself give me hope that this competition will change,
Yeah.
and out of hardship is how so much grows."
Yeah. Yep.
So, and I truly agree with Frankie and with you and all the ladies out there who have gone over and overcome hardship,
Yeah.
you know, and the ones that keep fighting and don't give
Exactly.
up, because there's so many people that go through hardships and they stay stuck.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to grow. They're just the pity party,
Yes. Yes.
and
You know.
I don't do well with pity party. You had stuff happen to you. I had stuff happen to me, but we went on. We got on. You
Yeah.
know, was it
It,
easy? Oh
no.
my God, no, it wasn't.
Of
It
course
was
not.
it was a hard road to keep moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
and cried lots of tears and that.
Yeah.
And I think what I really was drawn in was the title of your podcast,
Mm-hmm.
is because those three words are really powerful and
Yeah.
they're needed together in order for them to work.
Yeah.
So when you have a guest on, what do the guests actually tell you after they've done a show? Like, what do they get from the show?
Well, you know what? They get a lot. For example, I want to go ahead and first shout out author Regina Murden. She's a HarperCollins author. And I wanted to share this specific event because I feel like this was the most sentimental yet valuable moment that I had. Now, I have like in between takes, I'll stop and I'll let them know, okay, we're not recording anymore, which they can usually see as well. And we'll share stories and experiences. I would say like 30 minutes on out before we start recording part two, so we kind of lose track of time. And when I was speaking with author Regina, I ended up finding a moment where I could share this that I'm sharing with you because I had not shared that with any of the other guests. But it was only that I had shared it because she picked something up from my spirit as we were just, talking.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused me to break down, and I started crying. At first I was trying to hold my cheeks together, kind of distract myself. I'm like, I'm not going to do this today. I'm not going to cry. This is not it. And the waterworks just came, and she's like, your spirit, your spirit, how I pick up on it, it's like, it's unique, it's very different, it's bright, it's light, but I can tell that you're like, you've been through something though, because of how you speak very wisely though, like beyond your years.
Mm-hmm.
And I started just sharing, stuff with her, and stuff still, that I'm in the process of letting go or of forgiving, not for that person, but for me, because
Yep.
I've learned literally with the friend that I've had who stuck by me that it's important to never, ever allow anyone to have any kind of power over you, any type of connection or anything like that, where they can control you, whether it's your mood, whether it's your thoughts, whether it's your emotions, whatever it might be. But we shared a moment, and yeah, the waterworks were crying. It's coming. I just started crying. I was bawling. I was literally like runny nose, red eyes, like
That ugly cry.
like the ugly cry. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, and I'm apologizing. I'm reaching for tissue. I'm like blowing my nose and wiping my eyes. I'm like, I am so, 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 so sorry for this. I'm like, I didn't even mean to cry. Like, and she's like, it's okay. That's what, these moments are for. So every guest that I've had, I've learned something about that guest or their family or why they're doing what they're doing or how far they've come. And to me, that's unique, and it's not every day that you can find people from within the community that you can connect with, but also say, you know what, you're not even a guest anymore. You're now a friend. You're
Yeah.
like family,
Yeah.
So I'm literally always thinking of ideas like, okay, everybody that I've had on as a guest, is there a way that maybe I can do like some type of holiday special or some type of special next year where all of the guests I've had on, have them in at one time, whether it's being done virtually over Zoom or something like that, where we can talk about one topic, but in many different, experiences and things like that, because each and everything that they bring, it sticks with me. I don't forget it. So it meant a lot.
And it's good that you say that, because I feel the same way with this tea time. Is I'd like to bring them all back. I'd always like to bring you back, because you're not just a guest. You're family now.
Yeah.
And I want to see you grow, and I want to help you grow.
Exactly.
So if you have like a new book come out, or a new podcast, or a new recipe, or anything,
Anything.
I want to share it. I want to say,
Yeah.
hey, that lady was on my tea time, and check her out,
Yeah.
or that guy was on my tea time, check him out.
Exactly.
Because if we're just doing podcasts to have guests on, we're not actually making a difference.
No, you're not.
We're just doing shows for shows. It's like a TV show. If we just do a rerun, people get bored. People are like, I don't want to watch that anymore. That's
She's
boring.
talking about the same thing,
But then when you do like when you do like reunion shows or catch-up shows or something, people are like, oh my God, she's bringing that person back.
Yeah. Just because she has, so-and-so back. I think that definitely does make all the difference,
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that when you're talking about something or you're discussing something, it has some type of significance, that it leaves the listener with something.
Yeah.
Even if they don't listen to the full episode, like they've gotten something from the first 3 minutes of it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that's what I said, like each time in tea time is different. Some are 15 minutes, some are half an hour, some are an hour.
Yeah, mine's like that too.
It depends on the guest. It depends on what they want to share and what they want to give out. Yeah. And if it's not programmed, then people just speak from the heart, and it's like a friendly conversation. We could speak for 3 hours,
Exactly.
And like I tell my longest tea time was 2 hours and 17 minutes, but it was a tea time that actually needed to happen that long.
Yeah.
I felt that it was a time for both of us to connect and both of us to understand a little about each other.
And it's like, that's when, like, you start to find the treasures, as I like to call them, that are hidden within the heart of people. Because it's like, it's kind of like when you go have a lunch with someone you just meet. The first 10 or 20 minutes, you might, kind of joke around and just kind of lighten, the area or the atmosphere, and then break the ice. But then after you're sitting there, an hour, 2 hours have gone by, then that's when the real stuff starts to come out. Like, I've been hurt before, and I don't want to be, and you start to learn this stuff. So it makes it unique. Yeah.
So what is the biggest challenge in doing podcasts for you that you find?
Trying not to break down and cry.
I really don't care if I cry or laugh, because I really want people to see that there's a real human being doing this show. If I get messy makeup, I get messy makeup, but you're getting who I am,
Exactly. Yeah.
But doing podcasts, a lot of people will say, well, nobody's watching my show. Nobody's tuning in. How does that make you feel when you hear that from other podcasters?
It makes me feel discouraged, honestly, if they're, referring to their own stuff, because the way that I look at it is one person at a time. If you were meant to change 1 million people's lives in one day, it would happen. But that's not the case. Again, everything is a process. Even if it's one person or two people who are tuning in to listen, you appreciate that, show your gratitude, and don't overlook those two people, even if it is just those two people in the room. Guess what? Those two people, it might grow next week if you decide to go live and now you have 7 people in the room. But also make sure that you give attention to each of those people. Don't just, today I'm doing Faith, Life, Love. It's your host, Kenyona. You know what I mean? Like, I want to say hello to everybody, so when sometimes I do, I go live on Facebook when I record the audio, when it's just, me by myself. And I'll let, viewers watch. And if they have something, to say, I intervene in the episode, and we'll talk about it, so to catch it on audio, but I can see them, live with their writing. And most oftentimes they, end up sharing a lot, and I have to appreciate that. I don't take that for granted, but that's just, the way that my perspective or my outlook on things have always been, to appreciate, even if it's just the one.
Yeah.
Think that one,
Well, if you have that one person, that's one person more than somebody else.
Yeah.
And that one person can spread the word to another person and to another person. Check out this show, check out this podcast. It's the ripple effect.
Yeah.
If we take it with one cup at a time, one person at a time, we can make a difference.
That's true.
And that's what Tea Time is about.
Yeah.
And I am truly honored to have you on Tea Time, because you're just a bubble.
Thank you. Thank you. I get that a lot. I'm like, even a lot of people be like, you are just like so funny. And I'm like, when I try not to be, and it's like, it's kind of like when you're trying to have that serious moment sometimes too. And I get that with my friends a lot, and they just they start laughing. I'm like, come on, this is a serious moment. And they're like, I'm sorry, I can't help it, because you're funny, even though you're trying not to be, So I thank you for that. And it was an honor being, here on Tea Time with you. And I love your personality and your spirit as well.
Oh, thank you. And we have another comment from Frankie. And then I'm going to ask you for any final words. And then I will close it up with Miss Liz.
Okay.
So I love this conversation, ladies. So powerful. But I have to go chat later. And she will be here on Monday sharing her story. And
I'll be tuning in for that too.
And this is how it works. It's the ripple effect, right?
Yes.
One person turns in, the next person comes.
Yeah.
And my stores are open for women, men, children. I believe everyone has a tea story in them. And everyone's tea is different. Every leaf is different. And I like being different, because that's who Miss Liz is. I'm different. So, Kenyona.
Yes.
Kenyona. Did I say it right?
Kenyona.
Kenyona. I'm gonna call my daughter right after this show. I'm gonna say, listen, I got the name for the baby.
I prefer the name you're calling, because I've heard some very weird names. I've heard Kenyona, and I'm like, who's Kenyona? So I take Kiana, I'll take Kenya, it is okay,
So any final words for the viewers out there, and anybody who's going to be watching the replay?
Okay, sure. The words or the positivity or the nuggets that I want to leave with you is that if you have an idea and there's something that you want to do, work on it. Don't stop at anything. Don't settle. Keep going. And it doesn't matter if it takes 3 months, 6 months, 5 years, 15 years. Keep working towards it, because that one day that you're working towards is coming. Don't give up on yourself.
Well, thank you so much. And it was a true honor to have you. And you will be back as a guest.
Oh, thank you.
Because I am working on a reunion show, but I think I'm going to be doing it through a Zoom call so I can get everybody in, because I've done almost 80 tea times in less than a year.
Wow.
So I would love to have all of my guests come back all at once and do a huge tea time with Miss Liz.
That's amazing.
So I've had music, I've had mental health, I've had podcasts, I've had authors. So I think it would be an interesting reunion show if I could. And I also have some Global Peace ambassadors on there as well.
So nice.
So yeah, I would really like to do a huge reunion show. So on Monday, we have Frankie Norberg, who has been leaving messages in the studio. She will be in sharing her story on who she is and how her age does not define who she is.
Oh, I like that.
So she's an empowering story. You'll want to tune in, because it is truly amazing. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And continue to do what you're doing. And if you need any help at all, let me know. I will do my best to send you some amazing people, because that's what it is. We help each other.
Exactly.
So a little bit of sugar for you and a little bit of sugar for me. And then we got a pot of sugar going on.
Exactly.
So I want to thank everybody for tuning in for Tea Time with Miss Liz. And I will see you Monday at 2 p.m., I think, 2 or 3 p.m. I will put the reminders out there. So thank you again for joining me. And we'll close it up with who Miss Liz is.
All righty.
This is tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time, tea time, yeah, this is tea time, yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time.
Thank you for joining me, Miss Liz, for Tea Time, making a difference, one cup of tea at a time.